Hello, my name is Katiana. Today we're going to be covering circles, specifically the definitions of and how to find the area of a circle. Now the area is going to get a little complex. We're just going to start with the definition. A circle is a round plane figure whose boundary or circumference is equidistant from a fixed point, the center. So basically, no matter where you draw this line here, it's always going to be your radius, which is 2. Another way to think of it is a radius is half of the diameter, and the diameter is a line from one side of the circle to the other, which is always going to come through the center point. So it's always going to be the same distance no matter where you draw it from, so long as it crosses through this point. So like this line, which kind of bypasses it a little, is going to be a different measurement, so it's not the diameter. It's just a tangent, which we'll explain later. So the radius, since it's equidistant from the center to any point on one side, is half the diameter, is the radius. So the equation for the area of a circle is the area equals pi r squared, or pi times the radius squared. The reasoning for this is that if you simply take a piece of this, for example, we'll say we're cutting in like a pizza or something, and it's just into 8 slices, and if you just cut them all up and you line them up, they'll look something like this, which is kind of rectangular, but not quite. If you cut it even smaller, cut all of these right down the middle, and then line them up in the same fashion as you lined up the first set, they'll look something like this, and if you keep doing that, you'll eventually get here, which looks like a rectangle, but you have to do this is kind of an infinite number of times. And then if you have it here, you can just say that you have like the base times height, much like a rectangle. And in this instance, the height is going to be your radius, because it's always going to be, no matter how many times you cut it in half, you're always going to have this side, which is always the radius. For those of you wondering about how we get pi, this is a little bit more complex. The ratio of the circumference to the diameter is going to be a little bit bigger than 3 no matter what your circle is. And you can look elsewhere for a proof on that. We're not going to get into that today. But if you're lucky enough to have already looked into that, you will know that the ratio of a circumference to the diameter is always a little bit bigger than 3. It is always going to be pi. Pi is 3 points, an infinite number of decimals, and every number within your decimal point is going to be a different number compared to the one it's next to. It's never going to repeat. So pi is often rounded to 3.14 or 3.142 because you're rounding this next number up. Some people will actually take time to sit there and memorize however many digits of pi that they can. However, for the most part, people simply know pi as 3.14 or 142. So most commonly, you're just going to leave it at your answer or your radius squared times pi. However, some people will want you to round the pi to 3.14 or 3.142 and multiply that by your radius. For the sake of this proof, we're just going to leave it at pi. We're not going to round or anything. So if you have this shape whose radius is 2, as seen in all of these, you're going to have the area times pi r squared. Now, the square of any number is simply that number multiplied by itself. Hopefully you've already covered this before you're trying to find this. However, if you haven't, that's what squared means. So if you have 3 squared, that's equal to 3 times 3. And that's the same for any number. So if you've got 4 squared, it's 4 times 4. And this goes all the way up however far you need to go. So it could even be 1,634 squared is equal to 1,634 times 1,634. Hopefully nobody's going to give you something like that to solve before you're accustomed to these kinds of things, but that's what that means. So essentially what this equation is the area equals pi times the radius, or pi r squared. It's the same thing. So in this instance, it's going to be the area equals pi times 2 squared, or pi times 2 times 2. And as many of us know, 2 times 2 equals 4. So you're going to have the area is pi times 4. And that'll be our final solution. If they want you to round, you'll multiply it out even further and say it's 4 times 3.14 or 142, depending on what your professor wants. But this is basically going to be your answer. And this works for no matter what your radius is. So it could be, you could have a radius of like 5, and it'll still be the area equals pi times 5 squared, or 5 times 5, which in this case is 25. So it'll be area is pi times 25. And that'll be your final answer. Thank you for joining us today. See you again.